So how do we do it?
So this is what he's come up with. He's come in. You're tuned into the Football Bloody Hell. Football Bloody Hell
Football bloody hell.
podcast. The only podcast where the offside rule is clear as mud and the VAR decisions are as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Now let's
Nice.
kick off. And then it just says, now let's kick off. Fucking hell. Fucking hell.
Great puns.
It's-
Football. Hello.
Hello. What am I, a policeman?
I know.
Fucking hell. Welcome to another episode of Football Bloody Hell. I'm your host, Matt, and with me, as always, is the man who once tried to head a corner kick and ended up in the concession stand, my mate Gary.
Cheers, Matt. Cheers for that. What's it saying? You know, I still can't look at the hot dog the same way. But hey, I mean, but at least I didn't try to dribble past the statue outside the stadium thinking it was a defender.
That's bad, to be fair.
But it's a full script.
Fair point, Gaz.
Fair point, guys. My
Now,
God.
before we dive into the madness of this week's football, here's one of our traditional terrible joke to kick things off. Why don't grasshoppers watch football, Gary?
Why is that?
Because they watch cricket instead.
Oh my God.
That's fucking awful, isn't it? It actually says here that, oh, that's terrible.
Awful. Oh, does it? Yeah. Well, I think that's the intro done, you know.
Should we just read this off?
I don't know. I think literally this is how we start the podcast. This is the Football Bloody Hell podcast. Football Bloody Hell.
Football Bloody Hell podcast.
We tried the ChatGPT version. It didn't work, so...
Yeah, that's it.
That's very on brand.
I think that's
this
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sounds all right. So,
yeah, that'll do.
In short terms, welcome to the Football Bloody Hell podcast. We tried ChatGPT. Can't even get it out of my mouth.
Mm.
And it did all right.
It was all right.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the bar for us now, it's been set very low. It's only going to get better week in, week out.
We're going to get a lot of clips out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially you saying like something about hot dog.
Hot dog. I'm thinking of you.
Never going to see a hot dog in the same way.
Yeah, it's nice. But it was good timing, though. But it's quite scary the fact that we both said that was absolutely terrible, and it was actually scripted as well.
Yeah. Apparently, some theme music's going to fade in, but we ain't got the budget.
We'll put it in after.
What's theme music?
Yeah, insert theme music. We'll Google. Well, I was going to say Google, but we'll chat that as well.
Both laugh.
Both. Ha 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 ha. All right, then should we start? Should we start talking about why we're doing this? Because we obviously need to convince ourselves as well as anybody who decides to listen to this.
Yeah, I think one of the main things. Well, should we start right from the off then?
Yeah.
Like, why we're genuinely doing it? Why are we doing this? What?
Well,
enlighten me, Gary.
Well, I think the reason we're doing this is because you decided to abandon the place of work where we first met.
Yep.
And as you live quite far away from me, the other end of the country, I thought it would be a good way to keep in touch.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment to each other to stay in contact. And I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a way as well to see what your latest beautiful retro shirts you add to as well.
Yeah, I put one up there. A couple of teams that may have got relegated that may be joining this team. Hopefully tomorrow.
And welcome to...
When this podcast comes out, we'll actually know the result. So I'm just going to stay straight face because I could be elated right now, or not. So
I know. Yeah. That'd be strange. Listening to this back and then not knowing, but seeing yourself not know, but then knowing the result. That'd be interesting. Yeah. But yeah.
He's just looking at me like, yeah, he just didn't have a clue, did he?
But I think one of the things for this is that, yeah, so I think it started with we chat so much crap anyway, or we used to, and yeah, it's a way of keep doing that, and then hopefully just keeping in touch with each other. And just hopefully somebody else likes listening to this, and fingers crossed. Fingers
Yeah, it'd be
crossed.
quite nice. We had,
But
yeah,
well,
because we thought we were chatting a lot of shit at work anyway, and we thought, well, some people might like to listen to this,
yeah, probably.
or we should just do it anyway because I selfishly left the place of work. Yeah,
Yeah, but then
which
but I think I was thinking about it today when I was walking the dog, and I think the reason we bonded is because of because of last season. So we started because I think that's initially how we started talking. Obviously, we worked
yeah,
together, but then
it was.
found out you were a Sheffield Wednesday fan, and then as the season progressed, me being a Sunderland
Yeah,
fan, if this hasn't give this anything away.
the St. Pat's athletic shirts given something away.
Yeah, I mean it's red and white, so yeah. But I think we bonded over that slightly, and I mean it was going to go one way or the other because it was basically me ribbing you, and
Yeah.
then and then being really quiet for a bit, just to see how things landed, and then
Oh, it
stemmed from
landed
there.
fine, to be honest, didn't it? That was the main thing. I think, yeah,
Yeah,
basically, we became mates over the fact that Gary's team beat mine in a playoff semi-final.
yeah. I don't think it would have went the other way. It would have been if you had gone up. I don't think it would have been a
We won.
friendship. Yeah,
You would have
I don't
asked.
think it would have been a friendship though.
Yeah, you
But
fucking bastard.
but then obviously as we started talking to each other at work about football and stuff,
Yeah,
as most probably blokes do when it comes to office conversation, but then realised an affiliation for Football Manager, and
yes.
then that then uncovered the fact that you not only have the the deepest knowledge of football teams in the back arse of nowhere, as well as the largest retro shirt collection out of any man outside of anybody who works in a retro football shirt
Yeah,
shop.
I
Yeah,
made. I probably got enough to fill a shop, haven't I? So yeah,
well,
this
yeah,
isn't all of like this is mad though because that's you can only see four. If you're watching on video, you can see four.
yeah,
There's about 100 behind me, and then there's a drawer in another room that has about 100 in it as well, and they're
yeah,
all different, like wildly different from everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
For
a Sheffield
anyone, yeah.
Wednesday fan, but I actually do own a Leeds shirt, and I do own a Rotherham shirt. I know I shouldn't admit these things, but I actually have a Sheffield United shirt. But,
That's isn't that
oh,
sacrilege? Like,
yeah, the worst
I
thing
mean, I
about
could,
it, I got my wife to hang it up on the rail, and I don't touch it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's one for the collection, but not one to be ever.
Yeah, if I ever run out of toilet roll, I know what I'm using. So
My word, man. But yeah, I think the reason we're doing it is a way of keeping in touch. But then also, if we're talking about it, somebody else wants to, and you never know. There's
yeah, and I think
yeah,
one of the key things we said as well is we like a lot of lower league football. I think that's one of the things we sort of are quite passionate about. Some of the because our two teams have been
in the pits.
in the pits, got pretty shit for a while now. We tend to we do talk about the Premier League
Yeah,
on and off, but I think we concentrate on maybe a bit more lower league stuff. So that might be something that we'll talk about in the pod in future episodes and stuff like this. But yeah, we're gonna cover all sorts of football, maybe the Danish Premier League or whatever. But
yeah. I'm looking forward
we'll
to
see
that
how it
one.
goes. Yeah, that one's gonna be riveting if anyone wants to
Yeah.
listen.
Well, I think then, since you've mentioned it, I think that's probably a good way to summarize what this podcast is. So I mean, I've, as a Sunderland supporter, if you're listening to this, I've got Sunderland decorative everywhere. But yeah, in ter- in terms of the football, like Premier League, like I still watch it. Like I've watched the games today, obviously finding out the
Yeah,
teams who's been relegated and fallen into the Championship, and I thought, I would say I've fallen out of love with it. It's easy to say it when you've not been in the Premier League for a long time, but then an
yeah,
appreciation of being in, like I say, the pits of League One for as long as we were, and then finding ourselves up into the Championship again through the playoffs. Like I kind of took for granted the lower leagues as well, and I think over the past 4 to 5 years of being in it, it's just become something where that I look more like for those scores before I even look at the Premier League, because I just think it's become so. Everybody talks about the Premier League and stuff and what it is, and it's just money and stuff, and it doesn't appeal. It was obviously, as a Sunderland fan now, like, I mean, this is one of the things we're going to talk about in the playoffs in a later episode, but obviously feeling in the semi-finals to Luton, it was hard, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, this is the best football I've seen Sunderland play in a long time, and it's been class. Like, nobody, if you at the start of the season, nobody would have thought we were going to reach the playoffs. It would have been like sustained, but we found ourselves in there playing really good football with not even like a half a squad. Really, we had midfielders in defence for the whole season, practically no striker. But I don't want to get too much into it. It was more just about kind of introducing what the podcast is going to be about, and it is more around football in general, because football, bloody hell, it is. It can take you from the top to it can take you right from the top to the very bottom. There's nothing like it. So,
and that's the thing. I think we both have a bit of a passion. We do like proper football, don't we? And then the lower leagues, there is proper football, especially when you get down to like Southern Premier League, Isthmian League, that sort of thing. Like, you got teams in there that they might be like a postie or something, and then they train 2 or 3 times a week, and then they go and play football on a Thursday, on a Saturday, and then lump bits out of each other. But then there's still some really good footballers down there, and there's some good, well-run clubs in those leagues that could potentially come up. So we may even do little bits of focuses on certain clubs that might be down there. Like this, and I think that's just enlightening the fact that we love that sort of thing. We're both really passionate about football in general. And it might not just it's not just going to be England. I know we're focusing on England at the moment, but it's not just going to be England. I think we're going to cover some random crap, let's put it that way, in terms of like leagues and things. And it'll be ones that are maybe in focus for a bit, like maybe, I don't know, like whatever we want, really. I think that's the main thing. Whatever tickles our fancy. If we see an article in the week about, I don't know, the Maltese Premier League, we might have a little talk about it. But
Well, I think at the root of everything, it is a football podcast. It is something that we're going to be diving into, but a lot of it is just going to be me and you chatting shit to each other about what we know and what we've watched and what we've been up to. So what I will ask you, Matt, is what have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
What have you been up to?
In terms of everything?
I mean,
I've been watching like football.
Current affairs, mate. I don't want to know like the full. I don't. I don't want to know the past 6 months.
My life story for the last.
Yeah. You can skip. You can. Well, that's another thing. We're aiming for the podcast to be 30 minutes. So if you can get through it in 30 minutes, that'd be good.
Yeah, just me talking about where I used to work, my experience. No, I think it's more like what I've been up to is recently, obviously got a new job, which Gary was obviously gutted about. He was crying. I'm not going to say where it is, but it was better.
It's better now. Things are better for whom.
And then it's just been like it's preparing for the summer. Married over a year, and that's nice. Things sort of like this, collecting even more football shirts. I think one of the things I've been doing quite a lot recently is playing Football Manager, and I think that's one of the things we're going to touch on quite a lot. And Gary's in my sort of passion project on Football Manager, and he was gobsmacked once I shown him. So we will cover that in a future episode, and I think it's probably worth saying it's quite insane.
But I still need that.
I have been delving into that quite a lot and updating things. I've actually been using a bit of Chat GPT, which you saw at the start of the thing, to help me out with that, which has been pretty fun, to be fair. But other than that, it's just normal life, isn't it? So doing the garden, that sort of stuff. Like,
well, I think
what else do you do? What else do you do?
What else do you do as a middle-aged man?
Recently, yes, that's quite nice. I like.
As a middle-aged man, yeah,
I like food, mate.
Well, no, I think one of the things, like, just for the benefit of this podcast, is just to like this episode is obviously like an introduction to what we're hoping to do with it in
Yeah.
future episodes, and then also just like kind of get you introduced to us. So we're both established. Gary, me, I'm a Sunderland fan, and as you can see, or if you're listening, Matt is a Sheffield Wednesday fan,
Yeah.
and there's been a lot on our plate. So I think like one of the things that we wanted to do in the introductory episode is the playoffs, so like outcomes and predictions, but mainly it's just predictions for who's going to end up in the championship, because as we are recording this, we already know two of the
Yeah, we know the
outcomes.
other ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to catch it, any of them or not? I
I
think you were busy, right?
I watched the highlights of the Luton game,
I bet that was
Luton
short.
Coventry. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there wasn't a lot
Yeah.
going on. And I watched the penalties actually while I was at a wedding last night.
I mean,
So it was
is it, do you think it?
unashamedly. Yeah, I had my phone up watching
Yeah.
penalties of a team, two teams I don't care about at a wedding. I should have been more present, to be honest. But I did gather a
it,
bit of a crowd around me, so it's fine.
but here's a question for you, like, because we all already know, but penalties, can you be neutral, regardless who it is, even if you don't support the club? Because I don't think you can. I think
No, I
you
don't think you
cannot
can.
be neutral in a penalty
I don't think
shootout.
you can. I think you take
No.
sides quite quickly in a penalty shootout.
But it's weird
Especially,
though.
it is weird because, like yesterday, I don't know what it was. Like watching those penalties, I actually really wanted Coventry to win. I have no
Yeah,
idea why, but I just did. I
yeah.
think
I
it's
think
how the game's gone as well. Sometimes you think like if a team sort of clawed it back, or you think, oh, actually, I'd quite like to see, especially in these playoff games, you
mhm.
sort of unbiasedly go, oh, I quite like to see them back in that league. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
for me, it was like I'd quite like to see Coventry back in the Premier League at this point when it's getting to penalties, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to unbiasedly support them. But then fair
but
play to Luton, I got nothing against them. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, selfishly, because we got beat of them, I wanted them to go up anyway. I think there's.
yeah,
I don't know. I think it'd be like, I don't know. I was always thinking like it maybe 50-50, because Luton's the kind of fairy tale out of them.
yeah.
The
No, it
two of
is.
them, I would say, probably just
It
because
is. I mean,
from where they were.
yeah, they've been down in like the National League and things like this, haven't they? So, and not that
Mm.
long ago either. It wasn't that long ago when they were in the National League.
But
So it's
and I
really
think like
impressive.
obviously it's been like covered quite a lot, like through the build up for the championship playoffs. It was like the players, I mean, I'm not going to even try and pronounce it. It's Penzu or something. I can't
Yeah,
remember his name. I mean, I'm not doing a really good job of a football podcast, not knowing players' names and how to pronounce them. But yeah, I'll get better. But essentially, though, like it's been covered like all the way first player to do it from non-league through to the Premier League, and you've got. I'm sick of seeing the picture of the way entrance for Luton. But objectively for Luton, like really pleased for them, just because it's an amazing achievement, like absolutely unbelievable.
that's it. Yeah,
Um,
what they've done is incredible.
yeah,
And
and but the
they've done
same,
it like it's quite strange because obviously in the National League and League Two they were probably quite well bankrolled. You expected them to sort of get out of those leagues, but then when they
mhm,
got to League One, they were sort of like, yeah, they're doing well and they could go up to the Championship. And then you were thinking they're probably going to be one of these teams like I don't know when Scunthorpe got in there, you know, or Yeovil
yeah,
and teams like this. You know, they get there, they have a couple of half decent seasons, and then they just fade away again. And that's
mhm.
what you thought. But what they've done is they've done it slowly and in their own way as well. They've not just blown away the league; they've done it in their own way, and that's you have to respect that, really, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think with the change of managers as well, like Nathan Jones has obviously kind of laid a bit of a foundation for them, and then ta I think it was an odd appointment for him to go to Southampton anyway, but like he's obviously seen an opportunity and tried to go there. It's not
Yeah,
worked, and then obviously Edwards has come in, and I mean that must be painful. Can you imagine like seeing like it just like the opposite, like Darren Moore? I mean, it's probably more realistic. Wilder
hmm.
coming to Chef Word, and then seeing him promote Chef Words as United come down. It's like it must
Yeah,
be so mad for that fan base to see that, and like as a club, it must be so frustrating for Watford. But just to go like for the playoffs, like I think Sunderland's always had a bit of like history with Coventry, and I might dive into that in the future. But I don't know. Like it was laughable. Like we played them very early. I think they were our first home game in the Championship. It was like the first
Yeah.
game, and like they were a bit of a marker because they'd come up and solidified themselves, and it
They
was
did
kind
very
of
well.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, well, they'd finished the highest out of the last 10 years until our finished this season, and you just think like they were like the benchmark and looking at what they can do. But they're such a frustrating club because like with all that turmoil that they've got outside of the playing arena, it's just like frustrating to watch because you're like, how are they doing this? How
Yeah.
are they like?
You wonder like how
Mm-hmm.
you really do with Coventry.
But then obviously it would have been nice for them to go up because I'm a bit of a like a I don't know classic, but seeing Coventry like see them go up again and be in the Prem, it's like watching goals in '99, like
The thing is like
1999.
it's that Coventry are still in the Premier League. It's like yeah. Somehow they've managed to be awful and stay up. Like
Madness.
every season, like until they obviously got relegated. But it was
I
like
th-
every season, it was just like, whoa, what?
yeah, I
How did
think
they
I
survive?
think I think every neutral in the country was happy with either of them going up because I think
I think so. Yeah.
if the final had been Sunderland and Borough, nobody would have really cared as much outside. I think of the northeast and
Mm.
northeast being Sunderland because Borough is not the northeast. Just get that out there. But yeah, I think credit to both of them. I think Coventry needed it more than Luton
I think so.
just because of
You have to think of
the
some of
place
these
of the
teams
potential.
that have been in this position before, like where they've nearly been promoted. They've had a really good season and then just faded away. And one of those teams is like Huddersfield. Like in the last couple of years, they had that really good season and then they've just sort of dropped to sort of the lower
Yeah,
end of the table. And you just hope that Coventry that doesn't happen to them. Like,
yeah. No, I agree. I think I'm happier for Luton than Coventry, and probably because I think selfishly, Coventry would be a better team to play than Luton. Just just because I think they'll be weaker next season. I don't think they're going to come into the championship season. I mean, if everything's just finished now, and we're talking about next season already. But yeah, I don't think they'll come back as strong. But we'll see. Like, there's obviously a big summer window coming up for
yeah,
everybody to recruit and a lot of movers and shakers. But I just think the vultures will be circling around Coventry for Hamer and
yeah,
Gyökeres and
Hamer especially. Yeah,
yeah, he was good, but like it'd be interesting to see what Luton do in the Prem. And like we say, we'll probably touch on them maybe because it's going to be hard not to with us being football bloody hell. We're going to talk about
yeah. We've
everything.
got to talk about bloody football.
Football bloody hell. But yeah, so that was the first championship. Obviously, that was another thing that baffled us as well. I didn't understand. I think it was something to do with the cup run, but the order in which the playoff finals have been
Yeah, it
played.
didn't make any sense to me. Like, it's normally League Two, League One, Championship, isn't it?
Mm.
So I'm not sure why they did Championship, League Two, League One. It didn't make any sense.
I
It
don't know.
doesn't make any sense.
I don't know if it was something to do with Sheffield's cup run or something, but yeah, it was strange. But I know that for next season they've spread it out, haven't they? So it's not going to be over because it was always over this bank holiday
Yeah.
where they'd have like the Friday, Saturday, the Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then now I think it's going to be spread out, so it's going to be over a week. So 1 week it'll be
Oh,
League
really?
One, League Two. Yeah. I'm sure I read something like that.
Oh,
Probably
it's
people
going to be
listening to this
interesting.
going, these don't know what they're talking about. What are
Yeah,
they talking
they're
about? Not a
chatting a
good
load of
start.
shit, mate.
But we did say at the very start we chat a lot of shit. We'll get a
Mm.
lot of things wrong.
Yeah, well, I think we got a good chance of getting a lot of things right, but yeah, there's going to be the occasional thing where we chat absolute bollocks, and you'll be going listening at home and going, "Yeah, I don't know what we're on about."
I'm done with these two.
Yeah, do these two?
Yeah, but then I watched most of the Carlisle. I'm just saying Carlisle just because they're obviously the one, but I
Stockport.
was in. I was in and out, and I think just because they're closer, I wanted Carlisle to do better. Plus, they've had a bit of a rough time, and a lot of people talk of them being tipped for relegation this season, and
Yeah,
again,
that's the
maybe
thing
another
is
little bit of
like,
a fairy tale.
yeah, I think
Penalties
Carlisle have
again.
done well. Carlisle have done well to. I won't be able to deal with penalties tomorrow. I say
Well,
that.
that's what.
If I'm not here for the next pod, I know it's only our second one. That's because I couldn't actually deal with
You've not made
penalties.
it. Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah, exactly.
But as my but you see where I'm kind of transitioning to. So like 1-1 penalties, 1-1 penalties.
5-5 penalties.
So what do you reckon? Come
What
on,
do I reckon?
coming into tomorrow. How you feeling? Well, first of all, how are you feeling?
How am I feeling for tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
I want to go up, but
Yeah,
then I'm always apprehensive because it's Barnsley.
yeah.
Because they ended our 23 game unbeaten run. And that just makes me think, ugh. But I feel like our players are going to be up for it after what happened the other day against Peterborough. I think
Ha-
potentially. Now, you're trying to get me to say a score, aren't you?
No, no, no. Well, I will get a score out of you, 100%, because
I,
we need something that's something kind of
I do.
bang
I
straight at
do.
you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm. My head
But I
says.
was gonna say,
My heart says we're going to win.
how.
My head says it's going to be very close and might actually go the distance with penalties, and then it's just
Yeah,
a toss up. But I think we're all right at penalties. I just don't like watching them.
yeah. I don't think anybody does, especially when you're
No,
involved in them. But I
yeah.
was gonna say how understated that 23 young game beating spell, like you said, very understated of you.
Well, there's no point. Like you can have a 23 game unbeaten run, but then if you finish third, then it doesn't matter
I
at the
don't
end of the
think.
day, does it?
The thing is, I don't think I've ever asked you like how. So if you don't go up, obviously, it's been a bad season. But in the backdrop of what's actually happened, if you take into context, Sheffield, well, yeah, but Sheffield's highest points, unbeaten run, smashed records, team that's obviously not gone up, not to rub it in, but like to do all of that, but then see Ipswich and Plymouth both over 100 points, like how if you before you get the result, how do you look at the season as a whole? It's
To be
hard to
honest,
do that, I know, but how do you see it?
yeah, like you said, it's difficult because we've fallen short. But at the end of the day, we've had a fantastic season. Like
Mm,
any other season, we would have won the league or something like this, or been automatically promoted. So you can't say that we haven't been great this season, especially with a. It's just certain things have happened, like draws against teams near the bottom of the league and things like this.
uh-huh.
But three great teams in the league this year. What can you do about it? You know what I mean?
What do you? Yeah, I mean, it's it's
At
like
the end of the day,
objective.
it still was. Even if we don't go up, you just hope that we take the form that we've been in into next season, and then just go and smash it and do what
Yeah,
Plymouth and Ipswich have done, and just take that automatic promotion place.
I think if you were a Barnsley supporter, like I mean, you look at the league results and think, well, we've won both because I think they did win both, haven't they?
Yeah,
They
they
won
won
both
both. Yeah,
sides, and then I think you would be confident going into it, thinking we've beat them twice, we've got the better of them, we know how to beat Sheffield.
yeah. And I
But
mean, sometimes you can be overconfident in that sense, like we know how to beat them and everything like this.
yeah, well, I think but I think like if I mean, they've done the double, and I know playoffs. It's a cup. It's a final. It's not a cup
Yeah,
final.
it's a
Like,
final.
it is a
It's
final.
the
It is a
equivalent of a
final. It's
cup
a
final,
one-off
isn't it?
game.
Yeah.
It's a one-off game, and so forming that goes out of the window. But they always say you want to be the form team coming in. I think does what happened in the semis make you more confident and maybe rattle them a bit?
Yeah, I think at that game against Peterborough, where we won 5-1 and won on penalties, I think
Mm,
that's given us a lot of confidence. Because going into the playoffs, yeah, we won a few games towards the end, but we sort of limped in, didn't we? Like
yeah,
we drew a few, then won a couple of 1-0s, and then we sort of limped in. Whereas Barnsley just smashed through. But then their last few games, they were struggling a little bit, and then they just got over the line against Bolton, didn't they? So
yeah.
I feel like it could be anyone. It could be either. It's the same as the other playoff finals. It's going to be really tight.
I
I
mean,
say
as
that
much as I could.
now, and then you can quote me on this next week when we do the thing, and it was like 6-0 or something like. It's like, yeah, it's going to be really tight. It's
I
like,
don't, I'm hoping for a good game. I'm slightly biased because obviously I want to see yous come up just because. I don't know. I always see Barnes like it's like Barnsley are the Championship to what Norwich are to the Premier League.
Like the
Like
yo-yo team.
go up, come back down, go up, come back down. They are that. They always seem to be good enough. Always streaks ahead in League One, there and thereabouts all the time. Promoted, but then either just survive a little bit, maybe better than mid-table, and then just come back down through the leagues again. And that's just the club. It's not a criticism. It's just, and it's not like kind of trying to put them down by any means. It's just genuinely that seems to be the thing. Whereas I think Sheffield, he's too big for League One, and I know that's the kind of
Yeah.
the cliche and all that kind of thing. But you are like it's the same as what Sunderland were. Like we somehow managed to do 4 years down there, but I just think it's now or never for Sheffield. It has to be now. So I do think there's more pressure on you to go out and win
There
it.
is. There's always more pressure on us. I think because I think it's the name. There's a reason we're in League One, and that reason is because we weren't good
Yeah.
enough to be in the Championship, and that's simple as that. And that's fine. That's football, isn't it? At the end of the day, like if you're shit, you get relegated.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, unless you're Everton,
Been there. Know all
but
about that. Know
unless you're
all
Everton,
about that. Yeah, yeah.
but
You'd be
then
shit
like
all season and then just
doesn't make
I
any
mean
sense.
what a
Does
goal.
it?
What a goal.
But
But yeah. Don't want to talk
yeah, I
about
mean, at the end of the day, it's like we a lot of the teams do relish playing us, but I think that comes with the territory. But you think some of the teams in League One at the moment, got your Portsmouth, Charlton, like
that.
Bolton, teams like that, they've been in the Premier League more recently than we have.
Scary to think that though.
And you think we've been down in League One, well, probably all three of those were in the Premier League at the same
Yeah.
time. We were in League One, I think. And you think, so we're not quite, we're not bigger than the league, are we? Because there's teams in there that have been up in the top division more recently than us. So
Yeah.
you think like,
It's that
yeah,
shift, isn't it?
we've got a fan base, yeah, but it's at the end of the day, we're there for a reason,
Yeah. Yeah, I think
and we
yeah.
just have to accept it, really. But that's the
Yeah.
point of football as well, though, isn't it? So you get relegated so far, you just have to accept the point that you don't get too big for where you are, because that could happen, and then you could start dropping like a stone. Because
It's
yeah,
mad how quickly it can happen as well.
you don't
Like
want
when
to
we
alienate your fan base either,
nah,
like
I
getting
think
cocky.
what well, yeah, I think I don't know. When I say it like I look at Sheffield, I do it's you are a big club. I think most people would agree with that as well, listening.
Hmm.
And I just think Sheffield Wednesday probably is like I say, it's not the right thing to maybe phrase it, but saying you're too big. No club's too big for the league because you're there for a reason. I agree with you on that, but I just think as a club, should Sheffield Wednesday be in League One? No, absolutely not.
No,
But again,
but
and it's strange. Like I think if you look at League One this season, I don't think based out of maybe me being expert in inverted commas, I'm putting inverted commas for the listeners, but like an expert in League One purely for the fact that Sunderland had been there for too long,
yeah,
a lot longer than I wanted to be. But then I just think this season has to have been the most competitive it's ever been. Like
I think
the
so.
names in there,
With the top three, like the fact that we finished third on like 96 points, it's
yeah,
96
good.
points, and you think like that's insane. Like you think third, but then you think yeah, it's you got two good teams in front of you. Ipswich are another of those teams that I don't think they should be in League One either,
Yeah,
because
huge club as
they're
well.
a huge team
European
and like
champions.
exactly, and but they're there for a reason. Oh, I missed one other out as well.
Derby,
Derby are there as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
and they've
I
probably been in
just
the Premier League more recently than us as well. So I could probably just list them all off here, like all the Premier League teams
all
that have
these teams,
been.
but I do think that's. But I mean, that's the reality. I do think you're probably playing it down a little bit so you don't get carried away in case it doesn't go your
Oh yeah,
way.
I'm
Or
trying to stay horizontal before I have to go upright and like sprint.
but come on
I'm
then,
calming myself down.
I need you to put your big boy pants on. What are you going with score wise? And I don't want a head in the heart. I want
You don't.
Yeah, go on.
Because I could do that, but I've given two different answers earlier.
Yeah,
Uh, I I'm obviously going to say Sheffield Wednesday, so I'm going to say 2-1.
yeah. See, I can't see them scoring. I just think it'll be a shutout.
I can see him scoring in the first 5 minutes. This is how we do things. Like, you watch the playoff second leg, like 4-0
Yeah,
up, 98 minutes. Yeah, we're 4-0 up. Then we score an own goal.
yeah, yeah.
It's you know, we have to make it
That's
difficult for ourselves.
is that.
Like,
Do you think that's the greatest ever? I mean, I know in terms of a comeback, it's obviously it is. It's historic, but that has to be one of the greatest semi-finals ever. It was.
yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
maybe not
playoff
the quality of
semi-finals,
football, but just like
playoff
the. It
semi-finals, it must be. Yeah,
has to be. It has to be.
I mean
Because I know.
the first leg wasn't good. So I mean, if you wanted if both legs are great, then I would
It
say the
just
second
yeah.
leg was great. But the first leg, we just got battered. So it's like, I don't know.
Because wasn't it? I know. Because wasn't it? There was like that crazy. Is it Brentford and who was it? Brentford. Oh, it's gonna.
There was
I'm gonna
the
need to Google it. It was Brentford
there,
and somebody.
there was the Watford Leicester one. Do you remember that with
Oh yeah,
the last minute goal?
Hawks. Doo
Yeah,
doo. Yeah,
was
that's.
it
I mean,
was it a
that's
knockout missed penalty,
that's
and then it goes up the other end and they score?
that's iconic.
Hmm.
But in terms of the games, probably no. I wouldn't say so. Like goals, it might have been Sheffield actually. Was it Sheffield? I'm trying to think. It was Smith. Oh my god! Do you know what? The only reason it's popped into my mind is because it was on do you know when Sky show greatest games or greatest EFL games?
Yeah, yeah.
That was one of them, and it was like the second leg, and Nigel Clough's manager. And I'm thinking it was Sheffield and somebody else. Yeah, and again,
Nigel
listeners,
Clough's the manager.
listeners and viewers will be like screaming the team name down at us. I
Nigel
can't
Clough's
think.
managed Burton Albion for a long time. I don't know if it was them.
It might have been. Nah, I think it was Brentford and somebody else.
What,
You're
in the
gonna have to
playoff
go.
semi
You're
final?
gonna have to Google it. Go
Let's
on.
have a look. Yeah, let's have a look
No.
now.
Let's like acting like I don't use Google.
Yeah,
Using
it's all in your head.
ChatGPT for our
Oh,
intro. Yeah. It's all in my head. Encyclopedia. Who was it?
yeah. I'm having a look now.
Hmm.
It is
I think.
interesting. It's an interesting question to see, like, who, like, especially with all the what is the best. Maybe that's an episode we could do. You think,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we get a list of all the playoff semi-finals. We do that Charlton versus Sunderland one that you'll love.
No, I can't. I can't. I'm not over that yet.
uh,
I'm still not over it. Which one though? Which one? The league
Clive,
one?
Clive
The championship
Mendonca.
one?
Yeah, championship.
Oh, yeah. Clive
Um,
Mendonca. The I'm doing the celebration to the fans.
yeah, we could get a list together of epic championship playoff semi-finals or finals,
Yeah, yeah,
playoff matches, and then
yeah.
we could maybe
Playoffs.
list them. And then you could all say, the listeners, or if you're watching, you could say we're all fucking stupid and you're wrong.
Yeah, yeah. All
So,
waste of time. You're wrong. Don't agree with that.
but it'll
But I
be
can't.
fun. So,
Yeah, that's definitely an episode to do. But I
yeah,
think so. You've got your. I think that's probably. I mean, the League Two one was interesting and seeing who's coming up with League One. But I think that's now League One's sorted. Premier League's obviously sorted, and now it's just onto Monday.
it's just that that's basically, well, I say the last game we probably care about, because there is the Champions League final, the Europa League final, and the
Yeah,
Conference League final. I mean, they're all very prestigious competitions, but
yeah.
the likelihood of Sunderland or Sheffield Wednesday getting in either of them for a long time is probably.
I mean, we could still do like again. Like I
I
don't want
do
to.
feel like we should talk about them, because I do like the lower sort of European competitions. I do think we should take, like, English clubs, as we should take them more seriously, because
Yeah,
you do get a lot of prestige for winning it. It is a trophy after all, and you qualify for the next competition up the next season. So winning the
yeah.
Europa League, you get in the Champions League. So
I mean, there's. I don't think anybody would be able to like take anything away from a Brighton fan at the minute. They're probably on
No, no,
cloud
no.
nine. It's
You have to
ridiculous.
think, if Brighton play the way they are, like, and they get lucky, get decent draws and things like this, and continue this form into next season, they could win the Europa League. And then if they do win that, hypothetically, they're in the Champions League the season after, and they don't have to worry about getting into that top or breaking that top four.
I think like we both agree that without even asking you in first hand, that Emery's definitely going to win the conference. Like he's definitely winning that. Like
Oh
he's
yeah,
a
yeah,
master in the
yeah.
Europa League.
Villa are going to be class in that competition next year.
Oh, 100%. Like,
Absolute
but
class.
the thing is, he's
You
going to
think of
set
what he's
out
done
his
with
team to win
Sevilla
it.
and stuff.
But it's funny, like it's that you hear all these debates and stuff about finishing up, and I just think we're sold this nonsense about the Premier League being the best league in the world. Like I was more excited about the Dortmund finale, and I know that might seem that as like a two team table, whatever, in the
Well, it wasn't.
Bundesliga,
It's been what
but that went
13
down to
years.
the wire. I know. I mean, it's the Bayern and stuff that dominated and stuff, but there's still teams in there like Union Berlin. They've just qualified for Europe and stuff, and it's just I think there's quite a few of that. I think the only league where you probably look at it and think it's pointless is PSG, League On.
But
Like,
then again, like PSG were like I think it was Lille, wasn't it?
yeah,
Close to them all season. Like they've not obviously like challenged them, but they've been close. Like
but
it's not been like miles away.
to go back to the um the point of like English teams taking the lower European competitions more seriously. No
Yeah,
one's going to be saying to Brighton, "Hey, it's Europa League." Like, I'd love
there'll be
that.
some
Like,
clowns online.
I
But yeah,
like as much like again as much as it pains is like Newcastle fans walking about with megaphones playing the Champions League music. Clearly, small club mentality. Get some digs in, but playing the Champions League, they're on cloud nine. Like it's an unbelievable thing that they've
yeah,
done
it's
in
great.
getting to the Champions League. But I just think I don't know, like Tottenham, like the way Tottenham go about it, they're out. They've
Tottenham
got no
infuriate
European
me.
football now, and then they've just. I think any fan now would be looking at it next season. For a manager's perspective, it might be better for them because it means that they've only got one game, realistically one game a week, more time to bed in the philosophy and all
Yeah,
that nonsense that people talk. But realistically, Tottenham should be in
winning that.
European competitions and they should be winning the Conference League to get into Europa or putting everything in, like you always say, like putting everything into the Europa League to get into the Champions League and actually win something. Like that's what that
Yeah,
club's been built to do.
I don't understand their mentality when it comes to European competitions. They treat the Champions League as the be all and end all, but if they're in the Europa League, they won't take it seriously, and then they'll get knocked out and go, "Yeah, we want top four," and then they never get top four.
Hmm.
So why don't you just win a trophy, which would be nice for the Spurs fans, and win the Europa League and get into the Champions League that way? Because they're
Yeah,
capable of winning the Europa League. Spurs, of course
yeah,
they
yeah,
are.
absolutely. But
And the
again,
Conference League, like fair play to West Ham, they're doing it the right way. They could be in the Europa League next year if they win that.
I mean, they probably. If the thing is like it's a risky game that Moyes has played, and like I mean, it's probably been fluky. I don't think they've set out to kind of just push the league as secondary and push for Europe. I don't think that's ever been the case. They found themselves in a situation where they could win it late in the latter stages, and they've went for it, and the league
Yeah,
form's probably suffered. But if they go and win that now, which I would like them to do, like
yeah.
not a massive fan of David Moyes, but to see West
I
Ham win
like
a
West Ham to
European,
see. Yeah, it'd be good.
I just think they've got quality players and play decent football. And if they go and win that, none of their fans are going to be bothered. None of their fans will be bothered about where they finished in the
Yeah,
Premier League because they've
exactly, because they've won a
qualified for the
trophy.
Europa League and then they've got a trophy in Europe. Who
Yeah,
cares?
who cares? And I'm sure Spurs fans, if you are listening, you would probably want to win a trophy.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think because now I think it's compounded by the fact obviously Arsenal looked like they were going to win the Premier League for a period of time. It's put more pressure on them, and then I mean
Yeah,
Tottenham season's totally
yeah, it's
imploded and
just
stuff.
derailed, doesn't it, completely?
I just think they're probably seeing that now, and because they didn't win the league, that's a success for Tottenham
Mm.
because that there's no bragging rights on either side really. But yeah, I think I heard a stat as well. I think in with Emery, and that's another thing as well. For like Emery was at Arsenal, and he got ribbed for the way he pronounced certain words and stuff, and he was kind of hounded out of Arsenal. But that man has, I think it's in the last 14 seasons, has reached European football.
Yeah, he's a
That's
very good
insane.
manager.
It's
Very good
insane.
manager. And
So
you think like how
I'd
he's
look forward to
turned
seeing
around
Villa.
Villa is ridiculous. Like
Oh,
where they were before that were you were thinking, oh no, they're in trouble here. And then he's
what an
turned them
appointment,
around and
though.
finished seventh.
I
You
know.
think what?
It's mad because he was touted for the Newcastle job and he turned it down at the time.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think looking at it now, is Eddie Howe better suited for Newcastle? Probably yes, because they've qualified for the Champions League and
Yeah.
whatnot. But back to but this is what's going to happen on the football. Bloody hell! You talk about one thing and then it leads us down the
Rabbit
wormhole
hole.
or the rabbit
We
hole.
have a look at Wikipedia and then we're talking about the Hungarian division.
So well, I think personally, I I think my heart would say Chef Wed
Yeah.
or
You said
tomorrow.
no heart or head for me.
I know, but I'm not invested though. You know what I mean? Heart's going for you, but yeah. And head's probably going to say Chef Wed. I just think you're galvanised after
I think
what
that
is the
would
greatest
be
ever comeback in a semi-final of a playoff.
I think so. I think that's sort of I don't know, like giving the players a bit of extra motivation to just push through it. But then
I mean,
it's a one-off game and at Wembley, and anything can happen. To be honest, can't it?
yeah.
But we'll
Well,
see next week if I've got a Sheffield Wednesday
Sheffield
shirt
Wed.
and there's tears all over it, then you'll know what happened.
I
So,
wonder how that guy's feeling. That he went viral after he's got beat off Peterborough in the first
what
leg and he
ripped up
ripped
his
his
ticket?
chicken. I wonder how he's feeling right now. I
Idiot.
wonder if he's got a ticket for the final.
Yeah, more than
Probably.
likely. But it's like,
So,
yeah. Those people always come out of the shell, won't they? When oh,
uh, I mean, to
oh.
be fair though, 4-0, I was like, yeah, it's done. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it
Well,
was
to be
done.
fair, like personally, I didn't think we were going to win 5-1 in that next or smash out of the park. I thought 4-0. I thought, yeah, maybe that end of season form. I know we were winning a couple of games here and there, but it was scraping wins, and then getting
Yeah.
battered 4-0, which I didn't see coming because can't remember the last time Peterborough beat someone 4-0, but yeah. Oh, I do, like, it was us. But,
Well,
so,
well, I think the theme for the first episode is obviously to get people introduced to me and you, and we kind of
I think we've
blasted
done that.
through that,
Yeah.
and to like more. The theme of this podcast has been about predictions, so I think obviously we can't. Next week we'll revisit it and see the outcome of Barnsley and Sheffield, who's going to be joining the mighty Sunderland, in the Championship next season. But if we're going to look at predictions for next season, why don't we have a look at the teams who've been promoted into the Premier League and what you think? So
Yeah, so just like off the cuff, what's happened? I know it's like fresh in everyone's memory, so it's probably thinking like, how do we think they're gonna do Premier League? We'll go all the way down. We'll skip
yeah,
out the Wednesday or Barn. Well, we can touch on
yeah,
Wednesday or Barnsley. We can say how we think Wednesday and Barnsley are gonna do.
yeah, yeah.
But let's go. Yeah, let's you start first.
You do the Premier
Burnley,
League. Oh, well, let's
let's do one
let's
each, shall we?
decide.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So do you
I'll
want to
do
do
the
the Premier
Premier League
League?
then. Yeah, I'll do the
Okay then.
Premier League, and then we'll do vice versa, and then we'll get down to the National League as well. We'll do the National League.
Oh my
I'll do the
god.
National League
Yeah, you can do the National League.
because there's a
So,
local club that's gone
well,
into
go
it.
on then. So Premier League, we've got Luton. I mean,
Luton, Sheffield United. I was nearly say
yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield
Uh,
United and Burnley.
mm,
And I just gut feeling like throwing these out there. I think Burnley and Sheffield United will probably stay up.
yeah.
I think Burnley will because of the way they play and with company. I think they're doing really well. They're a completely different Burnley that we saw relegated a couple of seasons ago, and I think they'll do quite well. Sheffield United, I think they'll be a similar team to like Forest this year. I
Yeah.
think, and I think they'll stay up. I think Luton are going to really enjoy their time in the Premier League, but I only think it's going to be 1 year.
Mm. Yeah, I probably agree with all of that. I think the only team that I think is a bit strange, and I mean, we're saying this in, you've got to think of the context of the fact that there's a massive summer transfer window,
Yeah, yeah.
so a
There's
lot
so
can
much to go on.
change.
We'll do these predictions again once we've seen some
Yeah,
transfers
yeah,
be
when we're
made.
getting a bit closer. But yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Luton will enjoy every single minute that they kick a ball in the Premier League,
Yeah,
and it's a free hit. The whole season's a free hit. No one's going to expect them to stay up. So whatever,
yeah.
even
Just
winning it,
enjoy it. That's what you can say to them. And if they stay up, fair play to them.
yeah.
Because
I suppose then that
Everton would have
probably
gone
not.
down by then. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's the that's the thing. I just look at the Premier League now, and I think if we're talking about three teams going up, then I'll probably bring in the teams coming down as well. So why don't you talk about those? Now it's confirmed. So your
so
Southampton, your Leicester,
Leicester,
your
Southampton, and
Leeds.
Leeds. It yeah. Again, this all depends on transfers, but based. I mean, we know Leicester aren't going to keep all their team, but if they did, they would walk that league.
Yeah.
I think. But personally, I think it's difficult with the Championship because it's so open. I think Southampton might struggle a little bit initially. I think they might be like sort of mid-table sort of thing. I think
Yeah.
Southampton, just going off the cuff with Leeds, I think Leeds might do quite well. I think they'll re-galvanise themselves in the Championship and maybe do quite well. Leicester's difficult one because they're going to lose 90% of their players, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
I can't,
I don't think they'll drop like a stone. To be honest, though, I think they could
no.
do what Burnley have done and just tonk it and just go straight back up again. Because there is always one team that sort of do that. It used to be like Norwich, like up and down like that, and West
Mm-hmm.
Brom, but they've sort of fallen away. But yeah, it's a difficult one. I think.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. I think.
What do you reckon?
But yeah, I think the Championship's probably going to be what League One was this season because there's just so many big teams in there. Like you never know what's going to happen. West Brom's going to be stronger. Um, I mean, you'd think Blackburn will be competing again. Stoke with Alex Neil and a bit more money behind them. Norwich potentially going to be better. Huddersfield going to challenge again, and then obviously Leicester, Leeds. Who I think it's going to be a bit of a shock. Leicester coming down, and I think
I think
Southampton's.
Southampton will have a shock. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I think they've went gambling a bit with Russell Martin. Um, but we'll see. This is why we're just doing the predictions. But
yeah. That's why we're
I
just
think
throwing it off the cuff.
so. If I say that if we go down into the Championship and I look at the teams, I'll start off with the teams now going down the table. So you've got Reading, Blackpool, and Wigan relegated this season from the Championship. I think the thing that baffled me about Reading is they were top of the league at one point, and then they were never expected to. And I think they were tipped for relegation at the start of the season. Like it's trying to think back now, but I just think with Reading, I think they're really going to struggle because they've got a very big wage budget and they've got players like Andy Carroll. Is Andy Carroll even still there? I don't know if he's been released. I haven't seen their retained lists or anything, but they've got an aging squad. Tom Ince has got a release clause, who's probably one of their inverted commas again. I'm going to use those.
Better
Um,
players. One of their better
it
players.
yeah, Tom Ince there, and it just I don't know. I think he's got a release clause of £50,000. So if that's true, somebody's going to snap him up in the Championship. Somebody in the lower end of the Championship is definitely going to take a chance on him. I just think they're really going to struggle. They could be another team that sits and kind of rots and decays a bit in League One. Could be wrong. I think Blackpool ended the season okay, unlucky. Well, not unlucky to go down, but unlucky with some of the results. I think it was their form was quite patchy, but they were winning games. I think it was like win loss towards the end, and I think Critchley going back there is a perfect fit for them. So I would tip them to be at least playoffs next season
Yeah,
in League One, and then the
Wigan.
basket case is
That is
Wigan
Wigan.
Athletic. I mean, when your owner's using ChatGPT, not to make an introduction for a podcast, but to write a fan statement to a club statement to the fans. I mean, you're always in trouble. And the
Yeah,
minus
you
eight
are then.
points already. I think they could implode. I think they've released one of their main best players in Keane. this season. He's gone. He's out of contract, and a lot of them probably is looking to leave. And I mean, I know that on Mega Money, and you always like think about in comparison to like normal people like me and you and our
Yeah,
listeners, hopefully, but like from the tea room staff to the players not getting paid and the saying they'd fixed the issue and then they haven't. The club's a joke, and it's the thing that really annoys me is again with Sunderland having a bit of a fake rivalry with Wigan just because we're always competing at like that level for a period of time. It's just it's not the club being punished; it's the fans. So giving
yeah.
them these points deductions,
It's
it's not
difficult
fair on
because
the fans.
I
It's
mean we had that 2 seasons ago as well with points deductions because our owner was a bit of an idiot. But yeah,
but
it happens, doesn't it? And
I would say we're going to be lucky to stay up in League One next season, and
yeah, I think they'll really
hopefully
struggle.
I'm wrong. I don't want to see them fall through the leagues or anything like that
It
because
depends on depends on how many players they retain, and the likelihood is they won't retain many. Like
uh, yeah,
and like just to put a bit of context for you, behind Reading, they've released 37 players.
there you go. I mean, I've been trying to keep an eye on some of the retained players, but it's difficult. I know there's a lot of big names already, kind of across the board, really been um, like released. Like you've got Pookie, one of them, who like I would take him in a heartbeat in the Championship, absolutely. But I think
Yeah,
again, there might be teams out there who at the lower end of the Premier League want him, and you've got Bradley Dack at Blackburn, who's been released, who's again quality player,
very
but
good player. Yeah,
you just I think for the three teams going down, I think we're gonna really gonna struggle in League One, depending on what squad they've got. I think Blackpool, I would expect them to be up there just because under Critchley they play great football, so I'd expect that again, very attacking. And Reading, anyone's guess, anyone's guess what happens to
yeah,
them.
it could be anything. I mean,
And then
they've retained a few decent players, Reading, I think, but it's whether they can make or gel a squad in time to actually push. They might just have like sort of that average season, but maybe push the playoffs, but not quite make it. Like
yeah,
I think that's where Reading might sit. But then the season after, they might just smash it. You don't know with Reading.
you
It's
do.
been a long time since they've been down there, to be honest. So
Yeah, but yeah, I think it is that time away. It's something I
yeah.
don't think it's. I don't think the absence is going to make them any fonder of it. But
Oh no, no.
and then
So yeah, coming up
co-
from League One, then
yeah, I think. Well, there's rumours of Schumacher not being at Plymouth, and I think he'll be key. They've got a couple of loan signings. Obviously, I'm familiar with one of them. Well, both of them really. They've got Matete, who has been phenomenal, like a revelation down there. It was at one point because of the injuries at Sunderland. The fan base were crying out for him to come back because we were dropping like flies, and he was flying at Plymouth. So he's obviously come back to Sunderland, and I think he's going to be a main feature at the club. Next season, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing him play. But I know he was really good at Plymouth. They had a phenomenal season, won the league, and I think depending on how they replace, and I think again in the context of not knowing the transfers and who's coming in and out, I would like to think they stay up, but I think it's probably going to be a challenge again. You might see them like a Rotherham, but they do play good football, so it might
yeah,
be more suited for the Championship. I think Ipswich, I think they could potentially be the surprise package in the
I feel
Championship
like they
next
could do
season.
what you've done.
Well, I mean, I think there's more expectation on Ipswich.
Yeah,
Really, I think McKenna in his first season they had a lot of draws, and then the way he's got them playing football, the McKenna ball, Ipswich could be. Yeah, I've got no doubt in my mind. Like they've recruited really well for League One, and they've done it the right way. And I think those two teams getting so many points, you'd expect them to be higher up in the Championship, and I hope they both are. I think they're both good
yeah.
clubs, and we'll see. I think looking at Barnsley in Sheffield, just to go back to what I said, I think Barnsley are a yo-yo club, so you can't really. I don't know. If they stay up, I wouldn't be surprised, but if they went back down, I wouldn't be either. Um, but again, it's difficult to say. But I think with you guys, I think it's again without the recruitment. I think the way your squad's built, I think you'll struggle. I think he'll struggle. I think it's an older squad. I think Bannon's probably got another season left in him, and I think the pace of the Championship might just be too much for him. But again,
Yeah.
it might also suit him because you get a bit more time on the ball. But
I would
I don't
agree with
know.
you there because I think our squad is quite old. It is quite an aging team, and I think if we did get promoted tomorrow, we could be promoted by now
I've got my fingers
when it
crossed.
comes out. But if we did, I think there needs to be a bit more younger energy put into the squad as well, and a bit
Yeah.
more depth as well. I don't think we got much depth. If we have injuries, I think we'd be fucked. Like we would drop like a stone, and it might be. I'm hoping not for another relegation battle like the last time we were in there, but yeah, you don't know, do you? There's a lot of good teams in the championship, and it's like anyone could go down like next season, especially with the three that are coming from the Premier League as well. Like,
Uh-huh.
I think that all three promoted teams stayed up in the Premier League, so these are all three teams that haven't been in the championship for a little while. So
So
yeah,
what about League Two then?
or is it League One? Am I
Oh
doing
well, yeah. So I've
League
done
One
League One.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
doing
League One promoted.
League One, League Two promoted into League One, and then League One relegated into League Two. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll start with
Well,
the. Shall I start with
I
the
would I would
team?
say going through the teams who've been promoted, and then also talk about Hartlepool and Rochdale.
So I was going to talk. What about the ones that are relegated from League One into League Two?
You can't. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, because
you
we haven't
can.
touched on those yet, have we? So
Mm.
those four. I'll cover
Yeah,
them really
go.
quickly. I'll cover them
No,
really
no,
quickly.
no,
So
no, no.
the teams that went down from League One into League Two. So you got Milton Keynes Dons, MK Dons,
Yeah,
McDons,
sorry.
whatever they
Yeah,
are. The ones
yeah.
McDons. They'll have a nice game with AFC Wimbledon next year as well. So that'd be lovely for them.
The big one.
But Milton Keynes Dons a weird one. I think they're too good for the League Two, and I think they're not quite good enough for League One. They flirted with promotion to the Championship, and they've been up once. I think it was, wasn't it? A couple
Yes.
of seasons
Yeah.
ago, and then they got
Yeah.
relegated straight back down, and now they're down again. I think with them, I think they will do relatively. I think they'll be all right in League Two. I think they'll probably push for that automatic promotion place, if not get playoffs. You got the other teams there. You got Morecambe, Accrington, Stanley, and Forest Green, and I'm going to bundle all these three into the same sentence, and that is mid-table. It's like, honestly, Accrington have been in League One for quite a while now. To be fair, but I think they've been punching above their weight in League One, and I think League Two is probably about right for them. They'll struggle, well, not struggle. I think they'll be comfortable. I don't think they'll flirt with relegation. Morecambe the same. Forest Green smashed League Two the league season before, but their form going into
Yeah,
the
it's
end of the
horrendous.
season was awful, and then they've just carried that on into League One, and then just been absolutely battered every week. So
I think.
I genuinely think Forest Green. I don't think they'll do what they did 2 years ago and get promoted. Like no one expected them to get promoted, so I think they'll probably be sort of mid to lower end of the table in League Two, because that League Two, it's going to be a bit more stacked next year. I think with teams towards
Yeah,
the top. In terms
I
of the
think as
teams
well.
promoted in, oh yeah,
I was going to say just that, like the appointment of Ferguson as well was a strange appointment. Like I think he was coveted for a few different jobs and linked with
yeah,
quite a few different jobs, and then I don't think anybody would have picked him for Forest Green, and he's just
no,
not had the desired impact that needed him. But yeah, that's all I was going to say.
but they only got 27
Strange.
points this year, and that's awful, to be honest, isn't it?
Shocking.
So yeah, but the team's coming up. So we've already touched on Carlisle, and I think Carlisle are one of these teams that they used to be a bit of a yo-yo team between League Two and League One. They had their seasons where they were on they've been in the League One playoffs quite a few times, and they've
Yeah.
nearly been promoted to the Championship, but just never happened. I think Carlisle will probably be all right. I think they'll probably finish lower mid-table. There might be a bit of a flirt with relegation, but I think they'll be all right. Leighton Orient, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be maybe pushed towards the mid-table side of things. Now I'm going to bundle Stevenage and Northampton into the same sentence, and I think they're going to get relegated. Stevenage is wild to think they got promoted. So I think it was about 2 seasons ago they finished dead last in the Football League and didn't get relegated because of like COVID or something like that. And,
Yeah.
and they were awful. And somehow they've been promoted. So I think they might be a Forest Green next season. But yeah, don't
You think?
you quote me on that when they're getting promoted to the Championship next season. So like, these are just off the cuff of what I know about these clubs anyway. So then
Yeah.
if we go to League Two, you're going to do the teams promoted from the National League,
Yeah.
and you're going to touch on the two. Shall I do the two that are relegated from League Two?
Yeah, you
So
do,
we know a bit
yeah,
more
you
about
do
them.
Hartlepool and Rochdale.
So if you want to do Wrexham and Notts County, then
Yeah, I think I mean, we've talked about this previously, haven't we? Excuse
yeah,
me. We've talked about this previously about
got a
Wrexham.
bottleneck.
Yeah, well, the bottleneck, it's ridiculous that there's only 2 teams promoted. It's
Yeah,
just, it's wild to think that 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 happens. And I think there's a lot been said about Wrexham and Notts County anyway, so I don't really want to talk too much about it because we know all about the ownership and obviously the
it's been
contrast
everywhere, hasn't it?
what
So
happened with Notts County's owner and stuff. That, I mean, horrendous. So I think nobody outside of the clubs that are still in the National League, maybe like a Chesterfield or a Barnet or something, would like have anything to say about it, like like anything good to say for the both the clubs. But I just think Notts County, if they can keep the team together, League Two, I think they've come in so strong and finished so strong. I'd expect them to be top half of League Two at least, and I
yeah,
would probably, I think, agree with some of the bookmakers already. You'd expect Wrexham to recruit quite well, and it wouldn't surprise us if they go up. I don't know if
yeah,
they win the
going up
league, but
again.
I just
Yeah.
just double promotion. I think they could be in the Championship within the next 3 years,
Mm.
easily.
Yeah, I think so.
In terms of like the teams going down, like again, like Scunthorpe. I mean, again, I'll do what you've done. Maybe outside of Torquay United, like Yeovil. Is it Maidstone? Yeah, I'll just about
Maidstone finished dead
yeah,
last. Yeah.
Maidstone, Scunthorpe. I don't know if you'll see them again. I think if they go down, they'll probably bounce back up. But yeah,
I feel like you got your Scunthorpe, Yeovil, Torquay. Yeovil's mad because it was about, I think it's 9 years ago they were in the Championship,
I
and
know
now
they've
they're
had
going to be in the National League South,
that's
which is nuts. Like if you think that's like big high rise, and then I mean their fans are like they're going through everything at the moment, aren't they? In 9 years, like that's mad, isn't it? But I think Yeovil, if they recruit well, I think they'll probably bounce back up if they recruit
out
well and they can.
out of the
Torquay, I
teams
think
there.
out of the teams out there, like Scunthorpe, I
Yeah.
think will struggle. I think they'll be like, I know Kidderminster are coming back up now into the National League, but I think they'll be a bit like them. I
Mm.
think they'll sort of flirt with that sort of league for a long time and then just sort of maybe push at some points and make their way back up. But it's such a difficult leagues to get out of because if you have that mindset where you think you're too good for it, like I was saying earlier with Wednesday and stuff, if you
Hmm.
think you're too good for that league, you'll struggle, and that's the
Yeah.
mindset that some of these teams might have had. And I think especially like you think of the three teams that are relegated, they've been in the Football League more recently than a lot of those teams in that league. Like there's teams in that league that have never been in the Football League. You think of like Woking finishing
It's
fourth,
mad to think, isn't
and
it?
like Bromley, and then teams that stayed up, Maidenhead United and Dorking and things like Solihull Moors. Solihull Moors actually had a bad season in my opinion, but they should have been a lot higher. But then you think those teams, those are three big ex-Football League teams. Scunthorpe have been in the
Mm.
Championship in recent memory as well. So, and you think, really? And if they keep that mindset that they probably come into this season, so that's a double relegation for Scunthorpe as well. You
Mm.
think they could go down again, and then it's an even bigger bottleneck.
It's strange. I
It's
think it's going to be. I mean, you could probably look at all the football leagues' histories and seasons and stuff, and look through them and go, "Oh, like everybody will probably say the same thing and go, it's going to be interesting next year. It's going to be
yeah,
interesting
yeah,
next
yeah.
year." But I don't know. I don't know if it's because again I'm more ingrained in football league now than I've ever been. But I just think there's so many big teams now that are relegated, and they're just like not. fallen through the leagues as in back to back, but you just see like teams like Derby in
Just
there's
dropping.
just the
Yeah.
names go on and on and on because of mismanagement. But that's another time for another episode, isn't it?
But in
But
terms of
yeah,
like Hartlepool and Rochdale as well, we'll touch on a
I
couple more teams. So Hartlepool and Rochdale, what do you reckon? Shall I
I
probably
think
touch on these a bit more?
yeah, I think the only thing I would say on like just seeing Rochdale go down, I know that was horrendous, like a horrendous season for them.
Yeah,
And
I think.
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
No, no.
I think Rochdale will do all right. I think they'll probably be about. They'll have an embedding season where they're not great and they won't really do anything, but it'll be sort of like getting used to that level and
Mm-hmm.
like a bit like Oldham have had. So I know Oldham
Yeah.
flirted with relegation towards the start of the season, but then they ended up finishing 12th. So
Mm.
I mean that's for how they started the season. It was awful. So finishing 12th is not bad. I think something like Rochdale will probably do that, and Hartlepool are more used to this league. So you might see them be a bit more like Chesterfield, like towards the top. They're more used to playing. They've more recently played in the National League and played a lot of these teams that they're going to be playing.
Mm.
So I think they probably won't need that sort of embedding season where they sort of have to get used to it. It is a dangerous
Hartlepool.
one though. Yeah,
What
Hartlepool
about
like more towards like top end, I think.
again? Like it's just it's you see like the changes in managers and stuff throughout the football league.
Oh,
It's
it's
like it
mad.
used to just be the Premier League, but now like in the Championship, I think I forgot who's one of the longest serving managers. It's just like Tony Mowbray was one, and he feels like he's only been here 2 minutes, and it's just like Alex Neil's probably one of the longest serving as well. And he's just he went to Stoke. It's like I don't know. I think football's like turning its head. I think it's nice when you see like things like Steve Cooper and then like Robbins at Coventry. Like they've stuck by their managers. Like they've
Yeah.
stuck by them. I mean, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. Probably he's wanted them out, but you never know. But the fan bases have stuck with them, and then it's kind of reaped the rewards of it because they've stayed up, or the almost went up. But I think
Yeah.
it is. Like, I do think it is going to be interesting across the board. I think a lot of people are going to be watching County and Wrexham
I
trying
think
to
that
follow their story.
they're gonna have a lot of eyes on them. I think it'll
Mm.
be good for a lot of other teams in League Two.
I think it'd be
Like
interesting to.
it's been for the National League teams this year as well.
I
Because
think they're going to adjust as well because they're rightly so big clubs in the National League, but coming up to League Two, everyone's going to want to
they're gonna want to
stop.
play them and they're gonna want to beat them. They really are.
But I think what I would like to do is we'll probably do an episode on Wrexham. Just I know we
Oh yeah,
said a
yeah,
lot of people
definitely.
talked about it, just because I think we've talked about it, and if you're a League One player or if you're in the bottom end of the Championship, like a Wigan player for example, Wrexham come in for you. Are you going to sign for like a Wigan or a Rotherham or like? Or I'd be signing for Wrexham all day. You can see where their
Oh yeah,
trajectory is.
100%.
But we'll do an episode on Wrexham. But I think for today, I know we've talked on and
I was going to
uh,
say, like, if you want to touch on a couple more teams, I do. Yeah, the ones that have been promoted to the National League. You're
yeah,
probably not going
yeah,
to know much about these ones, but there's one that I actually quite like
yeah.
that's coming up.
Hit
Um,
me.
so, so the two teams that won the league, so the National League North winner was AFC Filed. Do you know much about them at all? So
I
they've
know,
been,
but
yeah, they've
I
been
know
in the
that they went
National
up.
League before,
Hmm.
not too recently as well. Personally, it's hard to say with them because I think they could be or turn into one of those yo-yo clubs that just smash the National League North and then just get relegated with like 10
Hmm.
points the next season.
Yeah,
The other team coming up from that league, Kidderminster Harriers.
yeah.
It's been a while for them since they've been up to this level. So that was one I mentioned earlier when with Scunthorpe. Like I think they might do what Kidderminster have done and just stay in that league for a long time.
Mm.
But I think it might be a bit of a baptism of fire for them coming up to that league. 'Cause it's not. It was when they were in it previously. I think it's a lot better than they were when they were last in it. So
Mm.
I think for them it might be. I think all the teams apart from the next one I'm going to mention are going to struggle, and that's Ebbsfleet United. They
Hmm.
smashed the National League South, 103 points, 110 goals. Like you think a team like that coming up, if they take their form in, I think they could push again, not promotion, but like just level themselves. And then
Yeah.
the team that I really thought is absolutely nuts to be in this is Oxford City, being
Yeah.
promoted.
Big fan.
Semi-professional team, local
Yeah.
to me. Like they've been promoted into the National League, and I think they're going to get absolutely dicked every season, every game. But bless them. But no, it's for them. It's like
Huge.
huge for them, and I think they're going to really enjoy it. It's going to be like a Luton in the Premier League moment for them in the National League. But I just wanted to touch on Oxford City's promotion and say congratulations to them as well.
Oh, there you go. You might get a run out for them. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
A little feature for them. No, but I think, yeah, I think it. We'll see how it goes. Like, well, these are very early predictions, and we're just we're talking football. Bloody hell,
Yeah,
that's what we're
exactly.
talking. I think we'll probably readdress it in an upcoming episode as we get closer to the start of the new season about with the transfer windows and seeing who's been recruited, who's been let go, movers and shakers. I think there's so much obviously going to happen from now until then
Yeah,
that could shape our predictions. But we'll have to stick to them when we do the next run. But I think that's where we'll leave it for today, Matt.
yeah, I
Like I
think
don't
so.
have
Yeah,
anything.
I
I think
think
we've covered a lot.
we've talked quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
I think we set out for half an hour. It's been an hour and 15 minutes, but but
yeah, yeah,
again with this podcast, when we chat, sometimes it could be like 3 hours.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when we were planning it on the other night, it was about 3 hours of chat. But,
Yeah,
and we
and
thought,
I
well,
think
let's just record it. So yeah,
I think as we move through our podcasting
we'll stay more structured.
debut as we go, yeah, we'll stay on topic. But I think we've got a lot to talk about, and hopefully, people enjoy listening to it. So yeah,
Indeed.
we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Matt. It's been lovely speaking to you.
Yeah,
I'll catch
lovely
you
speaking to
next
you.
week, and thanks anybody for listening. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thank you all for listening. And what's the
And
podcast going to be
watching.
called?
It's football. Bloody
Bloody
hell.
hell.
Bloody hell.